Hi, this is Robert with Pioneer Smokehouses, and today we're going to make hamburger jerky in the Masterbuilt MPS230. What we're going to do though is we're going to roll it out flat. I'm going to be doing a series of hamburger jerky articles. I've already done one of the videos, which is the hamburger loaf, which turned out amazingly well and was a suggestion from a Facebook group. Thank you to all you people. And then this is the standard way that I used to do it before, which is I just rolled it out flat. Now, I'm going to do that by using some parchment paper. You could also use a sill pad if you have a larger smoker, or you could use silicone sheets if you want to cut them. But we have the parchment paper and it'll be easy to use that, and you really don't even have to cut it. If you want, you can just give it a little fold and put your meat directly on top. What we're going to use today is we're going to use some 96.4, and it's only 4% fat, and you want to be somewhere around the 93.7 if you can. They didn't have any 93.7 at the store, so I decided to err on the leaner side. The leaner the meat, the harder it is to hold together, so you might consider putting in some extra binder if you're worried about it. But the best solution is just to take your time and smoke it low and not to undermix it. That's kind of a thing. Our spices today are 3211 and black pepper. I'm going for a black pepper flavored jerky today. I'm not really looking for a sweet or anything like that. Last time I did a Cajun, and I want to have just that little black pepper kick. There's not a lot of salt in this, so if you wanted a dry preserve, you might want to add some salt. You can substitute the pepper out for anything, and if you see in the picture here, you'll see that I used 2 scoops of my premix, and you can use like Cosmo SPG instead, and then use 1 scoop or tablespoon, excuse me, of pepper, and then a teaspoon of the cornstarch. The cornstarch is our binder in this recipe. It's going to be what's going to hold everything together, but we are going to need just a little bit of liquid, and my favorite liquid to use with beef is Worcestershire, and we're just going to put a teaspoon of that in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and open this. Dump it in there, and then I'll set this aside. I should have gloved up in advance, so let's take a break for a second. Okay, gloved up. I'm going to take the moment here to break this up just a little bit. The more broken up it is before I put the spices and liquid in, the better it'll perform. Now, I don't want to reach in and get my camera out while I'm handling this meat, so I will just break this up a little bit, and then I'll kind of show you what I'm doing here. So when you get it in these packages where it's not compressed, that's why I don't like to buy the tubes. You can just pull it apart, and usually it'll come out just the same grains the way it came into the package. And if you're trying to make meatloaf, this stuff is absolutely the best, because then you don't have to over mix it to get all your components in there. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add the Worcestershire, and because I just touched it with my meaty hands, you'll have to wash the bottle when you get back in the house. I don't know why I did that. So I'm just going to put in a little over a teaspoon because of how lean it is. I can go with a little extra. This is a tablespoon, so I put in 1/3 of this. Now, as that picture I showed you before had all these ingredients in, and then I just mixed it with my finger real quick, and then I'm going to sprinkle it lightly across everything because I don't want it to pool up in one spot. You can mix it halfway and then pour the rest in, but I'm going to try to get most of it in there. And I wouldn't use any more spices than that. This is kind of on the heavy end this time. Last time we had more meat in our mix, but this time we have exactly a pound. So once I've gotten it mixed together, I just kind of mix it real lightly with my fingertips. Then I can really start getting in there once I'm comfortable with the mix. If you break it up really good, it doesn't take any time to mix it. So we're going to spend about 1 minute kneading this because I want it to toughen up a little bit. Okay, we're all done kneading it now, and this is what I have, and I'm just going to go ahead, roll it just a little bit so I can get kind of an idea of where even is and break it into 2 pieces. And then I'm going to make those 2 pieces into kind of 2 square hamburgers, and I'll show you why in a second. So here we have 2 things. We have a roll of parchment paper, which is your standard roll that you can buy at the store. That is brand name. And then we have some generic pop-ups. I really like using these pop-ups because they're just so convenient. You don't have to play with them. They usually hold together pretty well. So I'm just going to lay one of them down on the table here, and I'm going to set the burger down and make sure that it's square the way I want it. You can do 2 things. You can put another sheet on the top, which we're going to do today, or you can just roll directly on it. The reason I'm putting another sheet on the top is because I have a wooden roller, and I would like to try to keep it from getting too messy. And I know that there's no close-up here, but we're just going to go ahead and go with this. So first I'm going to roll it a little bit that way, then I'm going to roll it back the other way. And you can see what's happening through the parchment paper. It's almost like tracing paper. So I'm going to take a little look and inspect it here real quick. That's really close to where I want it. I think I'm going to just go with that. And then I'm just going to take the edges and tuck them in a little bit. I don't want the edges to be too thin. I want it to cook kind of evenly. Now, I am positive that you can see this, but I'm going to hold it up a little bit and try to tilt it just a little bit to reduce the sun reflection. So that's the piece right there. Now I can transfer it, and just for this example, I'll show you. So I'm going to take this piece right here, and I'm going to fold it down just a little bit. I'll set this on the top, slide it to the edge, and voila, just like that. And now we have our piece ready to go into the smoker. And because I don't want to get them out of time, I'm going to go ahead and set this one on the top while I work on the other one. So we'll take a pause right here, and I'll finish this one, and then we'll come right back. So the other one is done now, and I'll show that one to you really quick. Notice that rather than cutting the parchment paper, I just folded it under. You can see that from the side, but it would be really easy to go ahead and cut it, and it might cook more even, but I wouldn't worry too much about it. This is the point right here that if you want to put some topical spice on it, like if you wanted to add a little more pepper, or let's say even honey or something like that, honey and brown sugar is a really good topping for this, but you know, that really balances off the pepper. It could be something that you'd really like to do with a pretty good amount of honey, not too much brown sugar. We're going to open this up and take a look in here. On the second from the bottom shelf, I always put a little tinfoil tray, and that will really help with your cleanup, especially with something as messy as hamburger. Keep in mind that when you roll this out, it's going to be thinner when it's done than when you rolled it out, because the fat will cause it to shrink. Now it's nice that we don't have a lot of fat in this burger, but there's still going to be at least that 4% shrinkage. And look at that. If you had a full-size sheet, like if you took it and rolled it out and got it right up to the edges, you could get a whole pound on there depending on how much you wanted on one sheet. I just find it easier, rather than fighting it, is just to go with 2 smaller ones. I will be flipping them at some point. Now we're going to stop everything that we're doing and we're going to get this done next. Today we're going to be using hickory as our smoking wood. This is Smokehouse Products Hickory Chunks, which is the same as the manufacturer of the Big Chief and Little Chief smokers. And I use a lot of their stuff. They are a regional company that has been in my area for a long time. But you can easily pick this kind of stuff up on Amazon, and a lot of local stores carry it. And considering that those stores are big national chains, I can assume that it might be all over the country. Another good secondary option is Weber, and I want to show you these bags. This one is a bag of Weber wood chip. This bag is a bag of Weber wood chips apple flavor. And this one is my favorite all around, which is pecan. So I always buy this one on Amazon. I put a fair amount of wood chips in there. I don't want to overdo it, but I want to get enough that we can get a good smoke. And you're not going to smoke, you're going to burn around the edges too much. So you want to make sure that you don't let this stuff get too far out on the edges, or you're just wasting your chips. So I'm going to check the temperature, and we're right where I want to be. I want to be at 170 to 200. On the other smoker, the Masterbuilt charcoal, you can't go this low of a temperature. What we really want to do is we want to get the temperature we need at the lowest level just to give it some nice consistent temperature, and we want to get consistent smoke. You really won't get a lot of good smoke until you get up the 150 range. You can get some smokers to smoke at a lower range, especially if the element is directly touching the pan. So you might get some elements to smoke at around 140, but for the most part, I would aim for above 160 or more for cooking. Let's push it up just a little bit, so it's about 175. Now this is an analog thermometer, so we can't be positive, but on something like hamburger jerky, it's a little forgiving, so we don't have to be exact. So we're at 175, and I'm gonna watch this and make sure that I get the smoke that I want for the next 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna just let it roll for about 2 hours. And we're trying to dry it out. Once it is completely firmed up and dried out, then we flip it onto a couple of grill mats. I brought those grill mats out. I have 2 of them here that I cut previously from one large one. So I just took, let's go like this. So I took a large grill mat and cut it right down the center. That's kind of, you get some jagged edges there. But anyway, that's funny. So we've got these to transfer it onto to complete the cooking process. We're just letting it go like this for now, and I'll see you back here in a couple of seconds for you, 2 hours for me. I checked the jerky a few minutes ago and it was looking perfect. What we want to do at this point is we want to turn the jerky out and put it on the grill mats. We're running just right around 200 degrees, so I was having a hard time getting the smoke that I wanted at 175, but if you saw there, when I opened that thing up, I just got blasted. I'm just going to take this, put it on there, pull this out about halfway and grab onto it. Oh, it's a little juicy. Set this aside. I'm going to bring it up there so you can see it. And it just looks like a hamburger patty. Let's see if we can do that. Show a little bit better view there. It's hard to know what you can see with the bright sun like this. Next week we have new canvas coming because I could not find the exact one that I wanted, and there's been shortages on them. So just like a nice little thin hamburger patty. If you wanted to add a little bit more seasoning to the bottom side of it, now would be a good time to do that. I personally do not. Nice little smooth flow of smoke. I added a little bit of chips, but not a lot, just like a little handful. I would like to put in some smaller chips, some of the electric smoker chips, to get a more consistent smoke flow. So I'll do that when I turn the camera off, but I'm not going to put a lot in either. I'm just going to add a little bit to it and let it go like that. I'll be back in an hour for me, but for you it'll just be a couple of seconds. So I just checked the jerky and we're ready for the next step in the process. Now if you look at it, it just looks like a well-cooked hamburger, but it's a little bit thinner. So I'm going to go ahead and move the grill mat out of the way. And then I'm going to cut it across the short length. You can cut it however you want it. I'm going to show you one of these real quick. This is what I'm going for. Try to get it there and maybe you can see the different sizes. And it's just a nice little piece. Now I've returned the jerky back to the mat. I'll hold it up here and I've spaced it out just a little bit. I'm not sure how you can see it the best, so I want to make sure that I go from light to dark. That way you can get a good view. I'm going to switch this. Put this on the bottom. I'll take a second to cut this up, so I'll be right back. Okay, I have this one all cut up, and I'm going to go ahead and put that back in. Now, of course, at this point, it is dry and cooked, but we just want to dry it out a little bit more to really give it that jerky consistency. And I want to show you here, I kept the little edge part, which will be the most done part, of course. So it's firm, you know, it's like a piece of jerky, and while it breaks apart, it's not mushy or soft or anything. Boy, I nailed it on the spice. That's exactly the right amount of spice. There is a lot of pepper there. If you don't like something really peppery, this might be too much for you, but not for me. This is exactly the way I like it. Use a straight blade knife, something really sharp. If it's not really sharp, you might sharpen it right before you cut because you'll want to get a nice clean cut. And with the hamburger, it is the sharper the better, definitely. A meat slicing knife works pretty good. And these are just one of the knives out of my Victorinox set that I always use. I have a full set of these and they're very reasonably priced and they work really well. I've had this knife for probably going on 6 years now and in great condition. We'll be right back. We're just gonna take maybe 30 more minutes to finish this out to make sure it's completely dry. And we'll be done. I'm going to enjoy this. We have come to my favorite part of the video, and that's when the food's done. Yum. I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. I'm not sure if you can see all that or not, but I took the shorter ones and I cut them kind of wide on the second piece, and I cut the first piece kind of narrow. I really like this size shape, but I wanted, you know, an edible piece. I didn't want a little tiny chunk. This right here is what I would prefer for size. And you just have, it's just like I said, a nice edible chunk there. I'm not sure what flavor to do next. I'm considering doing maybe a sweet Thai chili. If you have any suggestions, put it down in the comments below. But if you like anything you've seen here, the recipes will be in the description. I'm putting together an article for 3 different recipes right now. And the link for the smoker will be in the lower section, which is an affiliate link. And if you use those links, I will get compensated, so I appreciate it. And I hope you enjoyed today's recipe. Next, we're going to be doing a jerky gun jerky with one of the jerky guns from the Little Chief Company. And they're not very expensive, so it's very easy to do. I'll be using the grill mats instead of buying their jerky drying rack, and it should work out just fine. We'll see you then.